Previously on the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast.
Didn't decide until this morning as to
Okay.
what my pick was going to be, because I was waffling between 3 or 4 different choices.
Okay.
I decided to instead give myself a little Christmas present for the month of December. And there's absolutely nothing in this book that I can recall that ties it back into Christmas. But I am going to select the very first Doctor Who book I ever read back in August of '96, and it's another from the Virgin Missing Adventure range.
Oh.
I'm picking Evolution or Evolution by John Peel.
Oh no!
Oh yes.
And now our story continues.
Welcome everyone to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. This is Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London.
Chris, you sound different.
Yes, I have a new microphone and headphones, so hopefully I must apologise for the sound quality last time. We have burnt the microphone and headphones in a ceremonial, almost Yoda-esque or kind of Jedi-esque pyre, and we have new equipment, so hopefully it'll be less rubbish.
Sounds wonderful.
Marvellous. Okay. Brilliant.
So we have 2 quick book news items that I'd like to just mention briefly. One is that the audio narrators for all of the 13th Doctor novels have now been announced. So for The Good Doctor, that's Claire Corbett, who read Touched by an Angel a few months ago on our podcast. Mm-hmm. And Molten Heart is read by Dan Starkey, Commander Strax himself.
Yes.
Combat Magics is read by Mandip Gill, so that's great that we have a new series actor reading one of the tie-ins. And then Sophie Aldred returns to read The Secret of Vault 13. And then the other piece of news is that Doctor Who Meets Scratchman, which was previously announced a few months back as being written by James Goss, has now been re-announced as of this past weekend as being written by Tom Baker. It sounds like...
Ghost written, maybe.
It sounds like James Goss will still get some credit. Maybe it'll be similar to how he shared credit posthumously with Douglas Adams.
That helps it get a lot of press attention over here, sort of more so than I think normally would. Because I've seen it getting picked up on by quite a few sites, and so it's, there's some genuine excitement. The more I hear about it, the more snippets I hear about it, the more intriguing it sounds as a project.
And of course it's based on the script that Tom Baker co-wrote with Ian Marter. I'm not sure when exactly. I think he wrote that after both Harry and Sarah had moved on from Doctor Who, but certainly based on his original idea.
I want to say it was in the late 70s, so it was whilst he was still the Doctor, I think.
Doctor Who magazine had a great review of the script when it was uncovered a few years ago. Okay. Kind of a synopsis and such.
Okay, yeah, because it's one of these things, I don't know that much about it. Though, I mean, the idea of the Doctor meeting the devil, I remember the first time I heard about it, I thought that sounded corny and unworkable. And then we saw The Impossible Planet, and I thought, oh, okay. Yeah. See, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I look forward to it, but it's not going to be our pick for next month or whenever it is that it comes out. It's good stuff. Good stuff.
We're doing the 4th Doctor this month, so we've got to wait at least a year.
Yes.
Last time we spoke, in terms of new series discussion, and Series 11, we have seen through Rosa, and since then we've seen 4 more, so the
Yep.
Spiders episode, the Pating episode, which I still haven't learned the name of that. To Sarga?
I don't think you need to. Yes, Sananga?
The Pating one.
Yeah. The one with the cute CGI. Yes.
And then Demons of the Punjab and Kerblam. So what do we think about the series now that we've had 4 more episodes to digest?
So, yeah, so
I sense some hesitation.
Yeah. So I think I'm enjoying the ones that are not written by Chibnall more. I greatly loved the Punjab episode, and I was very grateful for it because it was the first one that I kind of just kind of grabbed me. Whilst I enjoyed Rosa, but like the others haven't been grabbing me. There hasn't been kind of like compelling narratives. It just hasn't quite been entirely to my taste. And I think it is the writing, because like the directing's been good, the acting has been very good, the music's been fantastic, the special effects have by and large been very good, and I love the nods to the McCoy era and Kablam,
including the pink sky.
Yeah, that was basically the greatest show in the galaxy, wasn't it? There's quite a few interesting things I think they're doing with the series, and I also like the fact that we've moved away, seemingly consciously, from whenever we encounter aliens, they're menaces, or when we encounter aliens, they're mostly menaces. That seems to have been a conscious decision, because that is something that I've felt slightly uncomfortable about for a show that is often quite progressive with some of the values it shows, and sort of about messages about togetherness and everything. Is that often the thing that looks other turns out to be evil. We seem to have consciously moved away from that, but I would also like every now and again to have something scary. And there doesn't seem to be quite as many scary moments, I would say.
Which I think I'm okay with, because I'm not a fan of like the horror genre generally, so I'm okay with that. I've been loving Jodie Whittaker's performance. I think she's...
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, she just really hit the ground running as kind of her own unique take on the Doctor. I think there's a few callbacks to David Tennant, especially in her early episodes, but...
You think?
But I think that's smoothed out a little bit, and
yes,
it's funny too how, like, if Capaldi does an allusion to Hartnell or to Pertwee Baker, it's celebrated, but then sometimes it's looked at derisively with the current Doctor. So I wonder if there's maybe an element of bias there too in kind of the fan critique around her performance.
Yeah, possibly is. I mean, that's one of the things as well. That was why I was quite careful and cautious about what I'm trying to say as well, because I don't want to be seen as being part of the down with this. This is bad. Chibnall must go. Definitely not that.
I'm still really enjoying it. I like the greater emphasis on historical episodes. I like that they've all been standalone adventures. I was speaking about this with one of my coworkers who's a Doctor Who fan, and he mentioned that this season feels more like short stories, almost like dropping in and out of adventures, but not necessarily getting the full resolution all the time. So, for example, not knowing how the TARDIS was recovered in the Pating episode kind of left that open-ended. And I don't mind that, because there's more gaps for audios and novels and stuff like that. I also feel like this season has been more of if the last 5 years or so, or 6 years, has been the house that Moffat built, I feel like this very much is a new house with new foundation and really going back to the basics, almost, in a Hartnell sense of an original time team, and how the characters are divided up, and the emphasis on character development, I think, has been welcome over plot. Sometimes I agree it's been at the expense of dangling plot strands here and there, but I feel like you need this almost back to basics approach to pull in a new, younger audience. When you think about the RTD era and the first couple years, how it had things like, Totally Doctor Who, and then the Sarah Jane Adventures, to really bring in that core, next generation kid audience. And I almost feel like this is a starting over, and you have to get back to that every so often. Otherwise, you're just going to have complexity for the sake of itself, and which I think some of the Moffat stories may have suffered from a little bit. So I'm okay with it. I think it's like a rebirth that's needed every so often, and I feel that if Chibnall's allowed to continue with and be the showrunner for, say, 4 or 5 years, that he'll build up his own mythology. But I think you have to really start with the basic framework all over again every so often.
I completely agree. The show is about change. I think, though, I mean, kind of going back to what you're saying about the dangling plot threads, it's the sort of thing that makes me wonder whether some of the scripts need to have a couple more edits, possibly, just to resolve some of them. I mean, it might be that this is all down to like a deliberate thing, and come the season finale, we'll be like, yeah, this is why the man who isn't Donald Trump suddenly just kind of gets off scot-free, and some of the other things. But yeah.
Yeah, some of the resolutions haven't been very tidy.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because I think I would prefer to have like a tidier resolution for some of them. I mean, I do also wonder if this series wasn't Doctor Who. I wonder, would I still be watching it? I'm not entirely sure that I would be. I think I would dip in and out. But some of the episodes are great. So Kablam, the Punjab episode in particular, have been sort of really fantastic. And I was utterly gripped by the Punjab episode. And I was in stitches in Kablam, even though I'm not entirely sure that it was an interesting kind of moral conclusion that we need to help the giant corporation, and people struggling for workers' rights are evil. Slightly twisting it there, but yeah.
Yeah, well, 3 episodes to go, and plus the New Year's special.
Yeah.
Hopefully that won't be the only Doctor Who we get in 2019, knock on wood.
Yeah, there are rumours that they are in pre-production. Certainly at time of this recording, that's not been confirmed as yet. But yeah, I don't want to sound negative, and I hope I'm not coming to sound as negative, but it's just, with a long-running series, there will be times where something isn't entirely to my taste, and we might just be one of those times, but I'll still carry on watching it, because I love Doctor Who. And also, the great thing is, their ratings are amazing. Those ratings are fantastic.
The switch to Sunday nights, I think, has really, really helped the series.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. I think they will stick the landing, and I think it'll all come together. I think it'll be nice.
Yeah, yes, and I'll now try to stop feeling over-defensive.
So let's move on to show and tell.
Yes!
Chris, what do you have for us this month?
Well, so I was doing a little bit of a kind of like a house clearance-y thing, and I came across some artwork that I got like ages ago. So from a gallery in Greenwich Market in London. So it's done by this guy called Stu Mackay, and it's a series of pictures of Daleks, but most of them are kind of like have various different themes that speak to modern Britain. So you've got a Dalek sort of shaped as the Gherkin, which is one of the major skyscrapers, and that's kind of supposed to be like corporation, fat cat type thing. You've got Daleks as ambulances, Daleks as fire engines, Daleks as taxi cabs. They're lovely. They're kind of like the size of a postcard. And if you go to stumackayfineart.com, and if you go into his gallery there, you can kind of go and have a look at all the various lovely Dalek things, and you can still buy them. And I think he still operates his market stall over in Greenwich Market. So if you're in the London area, go along there. And it's quite close as well to the Maritime Museum, which is also a fantastic place to go. They've got a wonderful painted ceiling that you'll have seen in Harry Potter and some of the Marvel movies. So I think it's used in the second of the 4 movies. Yeah, go and have a look at his artwork. It's fantastic, and I can't remember how much I paid for them. I do remember them being quite affordable. If you want to have a little bit of add a bit of Doctor Who to your life, to your walls, go for them. I think they were quite charming.
Cool. I will check that out. You showed me a couple previews of some of the artwork as you were discovering it, as you were cleaning things out, and it was cool to see those. Yeah.
Now, one of them is still on our walls, but the others just kept on falling off, and we thought, right, clearly these are not meant to be on the walls. We'll put them in the desk. So, what have you got for us?
So for my show and tell, I'm going to talk about the 6th annual console room coming up. So if you're thinking, geez, Matt, it's only been 6 months since you've talked about this convention, that's because it's moved from May to January. So we've gone from spring in Minnesota to cold winter in Minnesota. The original title for console room was going to be Ice World. when they were planning it. And I think that name is apropos once again. So listeners can find me there January 4th through 6th. Neve McIntosh was previously announced, so Madame Vastra, and she's been doing some new Big Finish audios recently, so she'll have some new things to talk about. And then 2 new guests have joined the lineup. Just announced, we have the esteemed, the wonderful, the legend that is Katie Manning.
Ooh.
Will be there, who of course played Joe Grant and Iris Wildtime. And then one of the things Console Room is known for is its excellent evening entertainment. So a couple years ago, we got a concert from Dominic Glynn, which was just fantastic. And a few years ago, a theater troupe did a live performance of the David Tennant episode Midnight, which was just riveting to see done as a live show. And so for this year, they've announced that the Seva team, the local electronic duo who put out the Caves of Androzani album, will be doing performances and giving a concert one of the evenings. So that'll be awesome.
Oh, fantastic. I was listening to one of their tracks today from the Caves Androzani album. I don't know the name of it, but it was the one that was included in the at the end of the New to Who episode about caves. And I think it's one where Perry is kind of like reflecting on the fact that it's all gone so terribly wrong. It's gorgeous.
Yep, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's just stunning music, and I think that just works on its own, even without Doctor Who. I mean, I think there's obviously extra resonances if you're familiar with the story, but yeah,
I love a good concept album.
Yeah, because I played that on its own to my other half, who's a former entertainment journalist, and so has done the whole music critic type thing. She thought it was rather good. I mean, she's not familiar with Case. Yeah.
So that'll be really cool, and hopefully the concert and then having Katie Manning there will convince people to travel and brave Minneapolis in January.
Yeah. Well, I think Katie Manning kind of warms the heart, doesn't she? So and if she starts telling more of her Jimi Hendrix kind of anecdotes with some of the others, and and the only time I've actually seen her was at a kind of Third Doctor retrospective thing. I've not heard her talk about her life, but certainly what I have heard from others, I was like, wow.
And I'm excited too for the Iris tie-ins, novels and audios, so that'll be fun too.
Yes, yeah.
So that brings us to our book selection for this month, which is Evolution. Should we call it Evolution or Evolution? Are we going to use the American or the British pronunciation?
I'm happy for tomato,
okay,
etc. So
I'll go with the Evolution, and you can go with Evolution. How about that?
Yes, yeah.
John Peel is a British writer, best known for his TV series tie-in novels and novelizations, not to be confused with the DJ of the same name who passed away, I think, over 10 years ago now.
Yes.
He's written under several pseudonyms, including John Vincent and Nicholas Adams, and he lives in Long Island, New York, and while his wife is a U.S. citizen, John Peel continues to travel under a British passport.
Oh, so he could get deported.
Depending on how this review goes, maybe.
Yes.
He's written for a number of different franchises. So for Doctor Who, of course, he wrote the very first ever New Adventure, as well as the second ever Missing Adventure. He had a special relationship with the Terry Nation estate, where he was entrusted with, he was considered the keeper of the Daleks for much of the Virgin run. He wrote The Chase and the Daleks Master Plan books for the Target novels, as well as Power of the Daleks and Evil of the Daleks, which I think were some of the last stories to be novelized.
Yep.
And then he wrote War of the Daleks, Legacy of the Daleks, this book, and of course Time Worm, Genesis. And then he wrote the Gallifrey Chronicles, not to be confused with the is it a 8th Doctor or PDA of the same name?
Yeah, it's an 8th Doctor, yeah.
He also wrote a few strips for Doctor Who magazine. And then outside of Doctor Who, he's written 5 Star Trek books, 2 TNG and 3 DS9, as well as writing for a number of young adult programming. So he wrote a series of James Bond Jr. novels.
Yes.
Carmen Sandiego, Erie, Indiana, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Mystery Files of Shelby Woo, and Secret World of Alex Mack for Nickelodeon. So he's done most of his career, I think, has been in the tie-in realm.
Yeah. Have you ever watched James Bond Jr.?
Oh, yeah, I used to watch it all the time growing up.
Yeah, it's a very curious thing with...
With Oddjob and, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm not quite sure how it fits in.
It's his nephew, I think.
Yes, yeah, but still.
Yeah, that takes me back.
Yes, yeah. So, listeners, if you've never seen James Bond Jr., go and have a Google for it.
If nothing else, for the theme song. It's very memorable.
Yeah. It's a bit bonkers. Yeah, it's good fun.
This is like we mentioned, this is the second Missing Adventure. It was published in September of 94.
Yep.
The cover is by Alistair Pearson, and it has, in this book, Sarah Jane's wearing the dress she wore in Pyramids of Mars that used to belong to Victoria. So you see that on the cover. And this is also where kind of retcon explains how the Doctor got his deerstalker outfit that he wore in Talons of Wang Chiang in this book.
Yes.
And it takes place shortly after the events of Brain of Morbius.
Very much so, yes.
Quite a few references. And
yes.
It's got an interesting structure. It's 9 chapters. There's 3 interludes. There's a coda, and then there's a kind of a where are they now semi-historical note. And funny, this weekend that Chicago TARDIS is happening, the same weekend we're recording, but the book opens with a rather wonderful nod to the Visions conventions of the 1980s and 90s that sadly are no more, but Chicago TARDIS is the outgrowth of that. And both Ruth Ann Stern and Jennifer Adams Kelly, who are very much involved in Chicago TARDIS and I think have both been on Verity, are mentioned by name. So kind of fitting that we're reviewing this and that it has that acknowledgement the same weekend that the convention's still happening.
That's rather nice. Also, I was going to say some of the structure, I think from memory, mimics a little bit of some of the structure of the Hounds of the Baskervilles. It's been many years since I've read Hound.
Yeah, that was on my list of things to revisit that I didn't have time for. Last night I almost broke out I have the imported Region 4 Australian release of Tom Baker and Hound of the Baskervilles. I think that was the only territory it was released on. So I was going to pull that out and watch it, but I didn't have time.
There used to be said that there's no one actor has successfully played both the Doctor and Sherlock Holmes. I think the Tom Baker version is very much keeps that adage or whatever alive, doesn't it?
And you have a tie into the setting as well, right?
I do.
Because this takes place around 1880 in...
I'm not from 1880. I'm not that old. But yeah, geographical setting, yes.
Are you speaking chronologically or geographically?
Yes. Oh. I mean, dear. Yes, geographically, I spent my teenage years near Dartmoor, which is where this novel is apparently set. This is a theme I might return to throughout. Because, a little local knowledge can sometimes distract. Might be the case here from time to time. And there's also a few celebrity guests in this novel as well.
Yes, this is very much a celebrity historical.
Yes.
And it'll be up to the listeners to determine whether this is a pure historical or a pseudo-historical. We'll answer that question by the end of the recap.
Yeah, the cover might give an indication. But, yes. So.
Shall we start?
Yes.
So, strange things are afoot in the Devonshire... Is it Devonshire? Devonshire?
Devonshire. Or just Devon.
Devonshire.
Nobody really says Devonshire. But anyway, the Devon village is how I would say.
Okay. So there's the Devon village of Bottom?
Bottom, yeah.
Is that a real place?
Yeah. Of course it isn't. No.
Okay. The Devon village of Bottom near Dartmoor.
Yeah.
Poor and homeless children are vanishing from the docks, and fisherman Ben Tolliver is attacked by a sea monster while he's leaning over the side of his boat looking at this magnificent display of underwater lights that are kind of circulating in a wheel. And then meanwhile, in the same village, Roger Bridewell invites his friend Colonel Edmund Ross and his kind of vulgar manservant Abercrombie to Fulbright Hall, where his fiancée Alice and her father Sir Edward live, and suspects that they're not what they appear. Before he can investigate that, he has more immediate matters because something out on the moors has been stalking and killing his ponies and horses. And when he and his visitors hear the baying of an enormous hound out on the moors, Colonel Ross insists upon leading an expedition to find and kill whatever's creating the sound.
So, there's a few things that I'm going to unpick here.
Sure.
Firstly, Dartmoor isn't by the sea. Dartmoor's fairly inland in Devon. Exmoor, however, is quite by the sea. So I'm wondering whether John Peel's getting slightly confused, because I just found that slightly distracting. Yeah, so geographically, Bodham can't quite happen. We were saying about the fisherman who was attacked by a sea monster. I'm just going to do a very slight reading, if I may, just like 2 sentences.
Sure.
Because it's an interesting section. And so talking about here about Ben Tolliver, which sounds like a carry-on name. He'd loved the sea in all her strange and often terrifying moods for 6 decades, but he'd never been a witness to a sight like this. Just like a woman to keep all her best secrets hidden till it was too late for you to take advantage of them.
Yeah.
There's a bit of that.
Although, 1880s, it could have been a thought process at the time. It's
it could have been.
Hard to say if that's the author's mindset or what he thinks, or if that's what this particular character thinks. But I agree, there's definitely a streak of sexism, I would say, throughout the book. And whether it's intentional and it's being commented on, there are a couple scenes, where, and we'll get to that. And one of the characters, there's like a revelation that happens, but just keep that in mind that sexism is presented throughout, and it's not entirely clear whether on what side of the coin the author is coming down on.
Yes, yeah. Also, as well, I was going to say about the kind of the ponies. So Dartmoor there's a breed of pony called the Dartmoor pony. And they live up on the moors, pretty much kind of like wild. I think some of them are owned by people, and they're fantastic. It's wonderful if you're driving around the moors and you just see these ponies. And also, if listeners don't quite know, or if they're struggling to picture Dartmoor, it's this kind of like barren moorland. And if you've seen the Sontaran Experiment, that's where it was filmed. So just basically picture that. It's beautiful. It looks really alien, which was why they use it for the Sontaran Experiment. Yeah, it's gorgeous, but quite bleak countryside. It's fairly unforgiving. And also about mysterious creatures going out killing things on the moors. So there is, over in Cornwall, there's a place called Bodmin Moor, which has a so-called beast. A cousin of mine claims to have seen. And every now and again there are stories. It's been in the press, I think, off and on since like the 80s. And like the army have gone out to try and catch it, and no one's found it. No one's found a dead version of it, and it still every now and again reappears. It's all rather strange, because there was one theory in that it could have been an escaped puma or something like that, because until like the early 70s you could keep tigers or lions or pumas as pets in the UK.
Wow.
Yeah, then they changed the law, and some of them just like, we'll just release them, and so you get there's some, I think there's a colony of wallabies somewhere in Kent, and there's a few other things that have just kind of gone out into the wild, and the thinking is that possibly this puma on Bodmin Moor might have been a similar thing. Yeah, there are definitely resonances of weird stuff up on the moors.
We get a cool scene in the TARDIS where Sarah Jane is exploring, and she finds, or she's using the TARDIS bathroom, which is the big swimming pool that we see in is it Invasion of Time?
Yes, I think so, yes. It took me a little while to realise it was that rather than a swimming pool, because it makes great emphasis about she's in her swimming costume, and I was like, why are we doing this, John Peel? What's going on here? But anyway, so... once Sarah's put her clothes back on, the Doctor offers to take her anywhere in the universe, and what does she choose? She chooses to go and meet her favourite author, Rudyard Kipling, shockingly. The Doctor, however, makes a little bit of a boo-boo, unsurprisingly, and they end up on Dartmoor, where he and Sarah go and encounter this enormous hound, which is the size of a horse. But it retreats without attacking them. And the Doctor kind of points out to Sarah that it was probably intelligent, and also it seemed to possess an opposable thumb. So they then encounter Sir Edward's hunting party, and when they claim to be lost, Sir Edward tells them to go back to Fulbright Hall to explain themselves to the Chief Constable, one Sir Alexander Cromwell. And on their way back, they meet 3 teenage boys who have slipped away from the local boarding school. And they're doing it partly to have an illicit smoke, and also because they're searching for their friend. The boys are, yes, I think, well, shall we say perving on Sarah? And she's also quite irritated with the Doctor when she realises that one of the boys is the young Rudyard Kipling.
Yeah, they're definitely not treating Sarah with any respect.
Respect?
Yeah.
No. They are they are not subtly written.
The Doctor and Sarah reach Fulbright Hall just as a villager arrives to report that Ben Tolliver's boat has drifted back to the docks with only half of Ben Tolliver aboard.
It's getting more carry on by the moment, doesn't it?
Sir Edward's hunting party returns empty-handed, but the Doctor impresses Sir Edward with his intelligence, and you get some of the allusions to Sherlock Holmes starting around this point, and he convinces Sir Edward to try and capture the monster alive. Colonel Ross, however, seems determined to see the beast gets killed. Sir Edward puts the Doctor and Sarah up for the night, and the next morning the Doctor visits the village to investigate Tolliver's death and to perform an autopsy. And they meet up with a young a young Arthur Conan Doyle, who is on a visiting whaling ship that happens to be in port. And since Doyle is a medical doctor on the whaling ship, he joins the Doctor to, along with the town coroner, to conduct the autopsy. And the Doctor and Doyle determine that the injuries for Tolliver were from 2 seal-like creatures, and it must have happened while he was peering over the side of the boat. But beyond that, they don't know why he was, what caused him to look over the boat, and why exactly the creatures attacked him. And you get some scenes with, Doyle being impressed by the Doctor and his...
Holmesian reasoning. Yeah, because the Doctor basically does a Sherlock Holmes impression, the like of which... I mean, it doesn't seem entirely in character. He does... I think he seems to do similar things in Talons, from memory, but kind of going, yeah, you're basically impersonating Sherlock Holmes here. Arthur Conan Doyle really was a medic on a whaling ship, and it is called the Hope. And you can see there's a beautiful painting of it. So it's the Hope of Peterhead. However, there isn't a lot of whaling that happens off the Devon coast. So I found that a little bit surprising. I was like, there's no whaling that happens. Well, certainly not these days. You don't see many whales either.
They made a reference to that too, that there was something like less than 30 Greenland whales left at this point in history, and that the captain of the Hope didn't really care that he was hunting them to extinction, because from his perspective there were still 30 or so of the beasts out there. So
that's true.
We get a little bit of an environmental note there, even if it's not kind of fully fleshed out.
Right. So Sarah is reunited with Kipling and his delightful chums. Yeah. Oh God, these scenes. I mean, because she keeps on noticing that they're looking at her legs and her chest. So like, can everybody just move on?
Yeah. And Sarah, I think, is still written very much like Sarah, and she's not taking it or putting up with it, but she's also, there's a bit of her humoring them just to get along, which doesn't ring true to her character.
Yeah. A few points she does kind of give them a bit of a piece of her mind, but yeah. So Sarah agrees to help them search for their mate Josh, who's gone missing, and he's gone missing after they were, shall we say, bragging about their nocturnal exploits with local ladies, and they told them to go and speak to the local barmaid, Jen Anders. Sarah's kind of thinking, oh, this is a whole load of tall tales from kind of from bragging boys, and turns out, well, actually, Jen Anders does seem to be doing favours for the local schoolboys.
Yeah.
And they're like, really? Okay. Fine. She tells her off, does Sarah, but yeah, it's just like, interesting. She reveals that Josh never actually got to the bar, but she advised Sarah to go and speak to there's a local homeless kid called Billy, and speak to him about disappearances. Billy sort of doesn't really know what to make of Sarah. He's very wary, but he kind of thinks that she seems to be a nicer person than the stuck-up schoolboys. So he directs Sarah to the local factory, which is owned by a man called Breckenridge. And Sarah tries to go and speak to the guards, and this is where we get our reading for this month. And this is from listener Jeff, isn't that right?
Yep, this is from Jeff Elston, and here is the dramatic reading.
There it is, said Kipling. Sarah couldn't help noticing a distinct trace of pride in his voice. She remembered that he was very keen on progress, and had even written a couple of science fiction stories as a young writer. Breckenridge's factory. It looked like one of Blake's dark, satanic mills to Sarah. It was large, block-shaped, and grim. 3 tall chimneys were pouring thick, gritty fumes into the atmosphere. There were few windows visible on the walls, and the entire bottom half of the building was invisible behind a tall stone wall. A single road led to the structure, and the sound of machinery came from within, audible even at this distance of about a mile. "So what does he make?" she asked as they strode along briskly. She was glad that she had had a good breakfast and a rest before all this marching around. Bottom was only a small town, but it seemed as if everything she wanted to see was at opposite ends of it. The factory was on a small hill to the west of town, facing out into the bay. She could make out a pipe that led from the base of the hill and which was discharging into the sea. Pollutants, no doubt. "A jolly good living," Kipling answered, grinning. "Aside from that, wire and cables, I believe." "Wire and cables?" Sarah was puzzled. "Isn't this a trifle out of the way for such things? I'd expect the market for them to be closer to London." Kipling shook his head. "Ah, but Breckenridge is a great believer in progress. He's talking about laying a telegraph line between England and the United States that would carry 10 times the load of the ones Lord Kelvin laid 15 years ago. And if that was done," Sarah said, catching on, "he'd be able to supply the necessary materials from here instead of having to ship them out from London." "Clever." "Rather," agreed Kipling. "This man has an eye on the future, no doubt about that, and he's very interested in the telephone. He came to our school last term and gave a talk about it being the future of communications, and even envisions a time when telephonic lines will cross the Atlantic and replace telegraphs. It's jolly interesting stuff." Of course, thought Sarah. This was 1880, and it was only a year since Bell had demonstrated the telephone to Queen Victoria. The great explosive growth of this new industry was poised to start. Breckenridge was definitely being visionary if he was already planning to take advantage of this new technology to lay submarine cables for it. Then why had she never heard of his name in that connection? He was certainly in the right place at the right time, with the right product. Why hadn't he been one of the first media barons then? Did his failure have something to do with the events that were unfolding? It was lucky that the TARDIS had brought them here then, instead of meeting up with Kipling in 10 years' time in India. Or was it luck? Too often, Sarah reflected. The ship had landed her and the Doctor right in the thick of things. Could it be nothing more than coincidence? Or was it possible that the TARDIS, or some other force, unknown as yet, was deliberately bringing the Doctor to points in space and time where help was needed? As she mused on this thought, they drew closer to the factory. There was a definite odor in the air now. All factories seemed to be intent on producing a stench as primary product, she reflected. There was a small guard box beside the door, and a bored-looking rat-faced man inside it. He glared at the 4 of them as they approached, as if irritated that they should deign to disturb his rest. "I'd like to see Mr. Breckenridge, please," Sarah said firmly. "Sorry," the guard replied. "He's not available for visitors." That wasn't a very encouraging start. "When will he be back, then?" Rat-face snickered. "Did I say he was out? I just told you. He's not seeing visitors." He was clearly enjoying his role as guardian of the gates. Sarah examined the gates carefully. There was no way through them without the man's permission, that was clear, and it didn't look as if he was interested in letting anyone pass. I'd prefer to hear Mr. Breckenridge say that himself, she snapped. Can you take a message to him? I'm a guard, not a messenger, the man replied haughtily. I guard. I don't carry messages, and I was told point blank not to let in visitors. Really? Sarah glowered at him. Have you turned many others away today? No. You're the first. Goodbye. It's a waste of time, Beresford said. Why don't we just go somewhere more interesting? Sarah shrugged. For once, she was inclined to agree with Beresford, but she wasn't going without firing off one last salvo. Well, tell Mr. Breckenridge that I was here, please. The name is Sarah Jane Smith, and I'm staying with Sir Edward Fulbright. You could mention that I was asking about missing children. Ratface scowled at her. What's that supposed to mean? He demanded. Sarah smiled sweetly. If you were a messenger and not a guard, I might explain. Bye. She waved and started back towards the village.
Thanks, Jeff, for reading that.
Yes, thank you.
And we've had Sarah turned away from the factory doors by the rat-faced guard who's there watching. And Billy has been watching her, right?
Yes,
Or watched that interaction from a distance.
Yeah.
And reveals himself.
Well, he's now convinced that she's wanting to help. And he says that, I'll let you know if I find out anything more. Meanwhile, the kind of local chief constable, Cromwell, is called out to the local cemetery, and Doctor and Doyle accompany him and discover that someone has made off with a corpse. Ooh. So the Doctor wonders whether the whaling ship's unscheduled stopover is somehow kind of related to all of this, and accompanies Doyle back to the ship to question the ship's captain, one Captain Grey. Once they get there, they find Abercrombie, the vulgar manservant of Colonel Ross, rifling through the captain's cabin. And he flees before they can kind of confront him, but he's left the captain's log open, and the Doctor and Doyle see that Grey has a meeting scheduled with Breckenridge and Ross. So it's interesting. About Abercrombie, so have you ever seen, there's a Peter Davison TV series called Campion? It was set, I think, in the 20s or 30s, and it's got I can't remember his name now. But anyway, there's an actor. Basically, his manservant in that is kind of like an older actor who used to be a wrestler in real life, and has quite the physical presence. And certainly that's what I was picturing for the Abercrombie scenes. When you resume the summary, I will have a quick look to see if I can remember who that man is. But yeah.
Yeah, I was picturing the Igor character from Young Frankenstein. I was picturing for the Abercrombie role.
Brian Glover is the gentleman who was in Doctor Who as well. He's Griffiths in Attack of the Cybermen.
Ah, okay.
So if you can remember him, because Griffiths is one of the crooks. So one of the many unfriendly and unlikable characters in Attack of the Cybermen. Anyways, right. Back to this.
So back at the estate, Alice overhears Colonel Ross ordering Abercrombie, who he calls the best burglar in the West End, to search the hall for anything of value. Upset, she confronts her fiancé, Bridewell, because he is the one who invited Ross to stay with them, and Alice is convinced that Colonel Ross is planning to rob them. Her fiancé assures her that Ross can be trusted. As he speaks with Ross privately, urging him to come clean, Alice takes matters into her own hands, and she tries to search Ross's room and his luggage, only to trigger a poison dart trap within the luggage, which knocks her out. And realizing that he'll never be able to explain his actions and that he's been investigating the wrong person all along, Colonel Ross clears out with Abercrombie, and they plan on spending the night out on the moors to hunt and kill the hound that's out there, or the creature, I should say.
Yes, yeah, the creature. So, night falls, and the Doctor, Doyle and Sarah accompany Sir Edward on another hunt. This time they manage to find it. But whilst it's kind of confused, it's hungry, it's desperate, it crucially does not attack them. And the Doctor's trying to kind of communicate with the hound, or beast. And just as he seems he's getting somewhere, Ross suddenly appears and kills the hound with a silenced rifle. And he flees before the others can capture him. And the Doctor is really angry at this and has the hound's body taken back to Fulbright Hall, where he and Doyle discover that the hound was not an animal, but it was a horrifically mutated 10-year-old boy. Meanwhile, Cromwell convinces Breckenridge to give Sarah a tour of his factory. And oh dear, some of this. So they talk about kind of child labour, which Breckenridge seems to kind of think is a good thing. Like Sarah is saying, "Oh, he's so charming, though," and I was like, "No, he's very sexist to you throughout this all this dialogue, because he basically says, 'Oh, don't worry your pretty little head,' and I was like, this is a journalist that we're dealing with here, somebody who's usually able to kind of like see through all of this flim flam. I mean, she does kind of say, 'Oh, maybe he's a bit bad, but I don't know. I think he's nice.' And I'm like, no, this isn't. Yeah. I found it really frustrating.
There was also they have a discussion about Mandela's Act is mentioned in the book, and that's a reference to the 1870 Education Act, which created compulsory education in England and Wales for children between the ages of 5 and 13. The problem is that the author's off by 10 years. That act was passed in 1870, and this takes place in 1880. So 10 years afterwards. So I don't know if he deliberately fudged that to make the Kipling and Doyle timelines work, or if it was part of a series of, it was one of several different acts that led to modern education. But I did notice that there was like a 10-year gap there. The other thing I wanted to kind of remark on was the killing of the hound on the moors. Yes. The book is really set up where the first half you think it's going to be like a real-life version of Hound of the Baskervilles, and that's definitely part of it. But I found it surprising that the hound was killed off so early, because it really changes and shifts focus about halfway through to the factory and some of the things that are happening out in the bay, underwater. Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting shift in focus.
Yes, but I think it's probably fair enough, because I think it's only so far you could really kind of go with that narrative without becoming a Hounds of the Baskervilles retread, which arguably this book still does a bit. But talking about the timeline, I mean, so Doyle was serving in 1880 on the whaling ship. And he was also in and around the Plymouth area in Devon in 1881. And Kipling was about 15 then. So it certainly works. And also, just because an act was passed 10 years ago doesn't mean that sort of British folk won't still be arguing about it. So anybody who looks at modern politics, certainly in the UK at the moment, I would say, yeah. There's always, once an act has been passed, the very next thing is that the opposition will try to kind of find ways to unpass it at the earliest opportunity. But Breckenridge in his factory, he's fitted it out with these electric lights, and it's quite a clever thing that Sarah. One of the good things about this section is that Sarah kind of realises this guy's got this great vision that there's going to be electricity everywhere, and that there's going to be kind of lots of kind of quick communication across the world, and she realises he's on the money, but she's never heard of him. And so what happens to him? And I thought, that's interesting. And also Breckenridge says that he's been meeting Captain Gray to discuss using the Hope to lay cable across the Atlantic Ocean, which I always found it amazing that's how, you've got these ships, because this is in real life, you had the ships kind of sailing out to the Atlantic from, I don't think it was from fictional bits of the Dartmoor coast, but it was kind of like from Cornwall. Such a great adventure.
Oh yeah, laying the telegraph lines.
Yeah, amazing stuff.
I think the first time I learned about transatlantic telegraph lines like that was, I think there's a scene in Jaws 2 where they're featured.
Really?
I want to say.
Gosh,
As a kid, that's where I learned about it. I was like, oh, there's
okay.
that's how the wires get it. Yeah.
So
The doctor decides to take a boat out to investigate Tolliver's death, and Doyle and Sarah agree to accompany him. Doyle borrows a harpoon from the Hope and takes the opportunity to ask Captain Gray about his meeting with Breckenridge. Gray refuses to discuss it, claiming that Breckenridge was worried about the possibility of industrial espionage, but he does let slip that it has nothing to do with laying cables. And that same night, the Doctor, Doyle, and Sarah head out into the bay, where they see the underwater Wheel of Lights and are attacked by the same creatures, the kind of seal-like creatures that killed Tolliver. Sarah's knocked overboard, and her heavy, Victorian skirt starts to, drag her down under, but she's unexpectedly cut free by what appears to be a mermaid. And then Doyle kills one of the attacking creatures with his harpoon, but then the other creature severs the rope with its teeth to prevent him from taking the body for examination. So they lose the harpoon. And the doctor pulls Sarah out of the water, and they return to shore. And kind of having confirmed to their own satisfaction that someone is using impossibly advanced technology to tamper with the course of human evolution.
Yeah, so this is a pseudo-historical, folks. You've probably already guessed this.
We still don't technically know it's a pseudo-historical yet.
Okay.
We learn that, I think we get a couple of the interludes, right, with some of the characters that were converted, where they mentioned there was this weird goo-like substance, but
yes, yeah,
we don't know the origin of it yet.
No, but
it could be terrestrial, kind of like was it Thin Ice, where the creature under the Thames, we assume it was alien in origin, but it's never entirely made clear.
Yeah, but that's still a pseudo-historical. Thin Ice is a pseudo-historical because you've got a science fiction element in there. That would be my definition of pseudo-historical.
I would put Thin Ice in the definition of unknown if it's pseudo or pure historical, because we don't know the origin of the creature under the ice. If the creature under the ice turns out to have been a terrestrial, undiscovered creature from Earth, I would consider it a pure historical. And if it was extraterrestrial in origin, then I would have considered it a pseudo. That's kind of how the dividing line in my mind.
Okay, fair enough.
And because it's never made clear in that episode which it is, I don't know it's kind of ambiguous, which is what this is still falling into.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, okay, yeah. I've always thought Thin Ice is pseudo, but yeah, I like your interpretation. So now we have. I think it's round about here that we have some flashbacks from the mermaid,
Lucy.
Lucy, yes, yeah, that traditional mermaid name, and she returns to some slave pens beneath the bay, where she and the other missing children are now living and working underwater. And there are these seal-like guards that are preventing their escape. And the guards are particularly angry now that one of their own has been killed. Lucy starts recounting to the others in her little kind of working party about how she ended up there. And that she used to live on the shore with this abusive guy until she saw him murdered by two of his criminal acquaintances. To keep her silent, the two thugs took her to an underground laboratory where a man called Ross used a medicine he'd discovered to merge her body with an essence he'd extracted from the body of a dolphin. And as the first and oldest of the merchildren, Lucy feels this responsibility to look after them. Although there are now 20 merchildren and only 3 of the guards, she still refuses to kind of start a rebellion against the captors until she feels the time is right. So, interesting.
And Sarah's recovering from, because she was bitten on the arm by one of the seal creatures in the bay. She's recovering at Fulbright Hall, and the Doctor and Doyle pay a visit to Breckenridge's factory at night. Breckenridge himself isn't present, and the Doctor and Doyle bluff their way in, claiming to be government inspectors. And while Doyle distracts the foreman of the factory, the Doctor is able to do some investigative work and spots a hidden floor panel and detects the scent of formaldehyde, which isn't needed to manufacture transatlantic cables, but it's useful for preserving body parts. So you have this kind of double act where Doyle and the Doctor are very much doing a Holmes, Watson sort of thing where Doyle's acting as Watson and kind of distracting the foreman so that the doctor can do his investigation. He also notices that Breckenridge's office looks out over the bay, and if he works late nights, as the doctor's thinking any self-made man should, then why hasn't he reported seeing the circles of lights? He and
it's really weird, isn't it, at times, this book?
Yeah.
It's like, so is this book actually written in the 19th century? I'm not sure. It's
some leaps of logic there.
Yes.
He and Doyle depart, convinced that Breckenridge is involved in what's happening, and Sarah, meanwhile, has ignored the doctor's advice and convinces Alice to join her on a stakeout of the cemetery to see if the grave robbers return for any more bodies.
It's Kipling, isn't it? I think it's Kipling.
It's Alice at
okay,
first.
maybe. Ah, okay. Yes, no, you're right.
Her and Alice leave, and then Alice...
Yeah, that's true. Sorry. Oh, shut up.
Alice has a change of heart, and she decides, Sarah sends her back to the hall to say...
yes.
Thus setting up the ex machina that kind of ends the book. But Kipling is also on the road and kind of creepily has been keeping an eye on Sarah and accompanies her, and they're hoping to impress her. And on the stakeout, they're both captured by the grave robbers, the same two men who had kidnapped Lucy in that flashback you were just talking about.
Yeah.
But unbeknownst to them, Billy, the street urchin, has been keeping an eye on everyone, and he returns to the village to warn the doctor and Doyle of Sarah's predicament. And one quick comment on there's a tavern that they keep meeting up at to have meals throughout this too, and there's a kind of a funny in-joke having to do with Sarah using Billy as kind of the local townsperson or the kid to get information. The quote is, "Doyle frowned. I think it's stashed irregular to use young urchins as agents," he complained. "But very wise," countered the doctor. And of course this gives Doyle the idea for the Baker Street Irregulars.
Yeah.
And setting up Holmes's reliance on the street urchins of London for a back channel information network sort of thing.
I mean, to be fair, there aren't as many big Sherlock references as there could have been.
I'm glad about that, because there was some restraint, because you could have, if this would have been written by Lawrence Miles, perhaps, you may have had, all 60 Sherlock Holmes short story titles worked into the dialogue or something. And we don't have anything like that here.
Yeah. But also I think I'd quite like that. I find that quite funny.
Have you ever been to 221B Baker Street in London?
Yes, it's a tourist trap. It's terrible.
Yeah, I visited there in 2009 when I was in London, and this was before either Sherlock or Elementary had aired, so it was practically deserted, which was nice. The most that had happened there in recent years had been, I think, The Amazing Race had come through some years before, and that was it. So,
okay. Yeah.
It was nice. I got to sit in all the chairs and everything, and I don't think you can do that now anymore, just given...
But the chairs all just seemed quite faded, and it all just seemed it felt very down at heel, but not in an interesting way. And yeah, I was quite disappointed. And also, it's not even at 221B, because 221's a bank now. So I think it was Santander's offices. Yeah, and also they try to kind of make you think, oh yeah, this is where Holmes goes up the stairs and everything. It's like, no, he's a fictional character. But yeah, I went down Baker Street sort of a couple of years ago, and I was amazed by the queue outside. And so maybe it's changed. So if you're listening, if you're from 221B, I hope that things have improved, because I was last there, I think, before you were. So my experience there was about 12 years ago, so it might well have improved, but I just remember being kind of a little bit disappointed.
Yeah, it's definitely something you can see in less than an hour, queue dependent. Yes. It's not something you have to spend all day there.
Yeah, and you might be longer in the queue than you are in the place.
Yeah. We had alluded to this last month. The novel All-Consuming Fire, which was published before this, establishes that Sherlock Holmes is a real character in the Doctor Who universe, but that the name Sherlock Holmes is a pseudonym invented by Doyle to hide his true identity. And Evolution, this book, goes on to speculate that Doyle based some of the fictional Holmes's characteristics on the Fourth Doctor in order to further obscure the detective's true identity. So supposedly between this novel and All-Consuming Fire, Doyle in the Doctor Who universe will meet the real Sherlock Holmes. But that's kind of a really difficult way to square that circle of that continuity clash.
Yeah, I'm not convinced it even really goes that far, does it? I think All-Consuming Fire does a lot more groundwork for this than this book does. Yeah. Right.
So.
Okay. Yes. So So the Doctor sends Billy over to Fulbright Hall to kind of go and fetch some help, whilst he and Doyle go back to the factory. And on their way, they find Ross and Abercrombie heading in the same direction. And the Doctor demands to know what's going on. And Ross says that he's a secret agent for the British government with a mandate to investigate matters that fall outside the purview of normal intelligence work. So in other words, Torchwood.
Yes. Edmund Ross totally works for Torchwood.
Torchwood, yeah.
He says he serves Queen Victoria in a secret role investigating matters that lie outside the conventional. So if that's not Torchwood, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
I think we should just call Colonel Ross the Torchwood agent from this point on.
Yeah, because it's going to get a bit confusing suddenly now, because we then get this revelation that Colonel Ross has a brother, Percival Ross, who's responsible for everything that's been going on. Like, what? Okay.
And that's the reference to meeting up with Ross in the captain's logbook.
Yes.
Because it was just the last name Ross. That's the Ross he meant was Percival.
Yeah. So some time ago, Torchwood Ross learned that Percival had found a way of hybridizing species, and he's set about to destroy Percival's evil work. And Tales of this monstrous hound on the moors has taken him to Bodham, and he noticed that Breckenridge and Sir Edward both had the money and influence to fund Percival's experiments. So Ross started off investigating Sir Edward first, but now knows he chose the wrong man. But also, you kind of wonder, how much of a friend is Ross to Alice's fiancée? Or is he just using it? Because I don't think I think Alice's fiancée just basically gets slightly forgotten about as this story goes on. And you're like, is this just a coincidence? Or, that's
not really tied together.
No, not particularly. Torchwood Ross knows little about exactly what Percival's been up to, but he does know that Percival can somehow use animal tissue to change the human children into hybrids, and human tissue to somehow augment the natural abilities of the animals. This explains why Breckenridge was trying to buy stuff from the whaling ship, and also why corpses are being stolen from the cemetery. And rather wonderfully, because Sarah is too old to survive the hybridization process, Percival intends to kill her.
Yeah, with like a razor blade or something. It was just awkward.
Yes.
Just getting back to the Torchwood bit, I wonder if Russell T Davies read this and thought, oh, that's a good idea, or if it was just developed separately, because it really is, like, he's a Torchwood agent. I mean, and this was, 15 years or so, or maybe 12 years before Torchwood was a thing.
Yeah, I think he did.
But it makes sense of Victorian secret society
I do think, my thinking was that RTD probably read this, or somebody had and had suggested it to him as an idea or something. I also think that Mark Gatiss has read this, because the Sherlock episode, The Hounds of Baskervilles, owes a little bit to this, because that's more about genetic experiments and everything, and so which this is. So maybe it's a bit too much to say Gatiss has definitely read this, but I'm like, it's interesting.
So Breckenridge's thugs take Sarah to Percival, who explains that he witnessed the crash of an alien spaceship. Ta-da! So pseudo-historical, confirmed. He witnessed the crash of an alien spaceship in Limehouse. Is that a real place?
Yes, that is a real place. It's in London. Yeah, it's a rough part of... it's the East End, pretty much.
And rather than help the alien within, who's described as like an amorphous sort of jellyfish, which led me to think, okay, this is probably one of two species.
And you're right. Yeah.
So the alien inside is like gesturing to a cabinet saying, like, my healing gel is in there. And Percival takes it and leaves the alien to die. And he gets burned slightly from the UFO crash. So he gets a little bit of the ointment on his burns and they heal. So then he also decides to test the gel on a boy who was bitten by a rabid dog and is dying of rabies in a hospital. And the gel somehow causes the boy's cells to merge with the dog cells that had bitten him to create a viable hybrid. Percival was forced to flee London when his brother, Torchwood Ross, exposed his attempts to fund his work through counterfeiting, because his brother had a whole counterfeit operation too. So Percival leaves and he goes to Dartmoor and finds a new patron in Breckenridge who has, this vision of laying transatlantic cable. And with his help, Percival creates a wholly viable new race of mer creatures, as well as the augmented seal servants. So the whole plan with these kidnapping and stealing these 20-some kids from the village is to create this underwater race that can help lay cable.
Yeah, if only there were ships that could do that.
Yeah.
Deary dear. Yes, okay. So the Doctor, Doyle, Ross, and Ross's companion, this is Torchwood Ross, and his companion Abercrombie break into the factory, only to be captured by Breckenridge and his thugs. And Breckenridge takes them to Percival's laboratory, where the Doctor identifies the gel as a Rutan healing sling. So,
cherry flavored.
Yes, probably.
Oh no, he says he tastes it, and he
he does, doesn't he?
Oh,
He
this
does,
is cherry
yes.
flavored.
Yeah. And also because it only seems to work on humans, it doesn't affect Time Lords or something. But yes, so since Rutan tissue is amorphous, the gel kind of like analyses the cell structure of whatever it's applied to before starting to work. And so Breckenridge intends to use it to create a new race of slaves. And also, the Doctor is obviously not on board with this, and Breckenridge isn't particularly happy. And I think, isn't it around about here where the Doctor sort of said, "Oh, we must stop you," as Breckenridge says, "No, Doctor, I expect you to die."
Yeah.
And I think that I thought, wow, right, okay. Clunk. Yeah, Breckenridge starts becoming a James Bond villain for no obvious reason.
Well, it was around the time of James Bond Jr., slightly thereafter, so
yes,
some crossover.
Yeah. Yes, conscious or otherwise.
So it's revealed that it's a Rutan healing gel.
Yes.
The other species that I was thinking it could have belonged to was the who were the shimmery creatures that were in Invasion of Time
Vardens.
that helped invade? The Vardens. Based on the description, I was thinking it would be one of those two.
Yeah. Also, round about this time, the Vardens had already popped up in a novel. I shan't say which one. So as not spoil it.
Okay.
So I think it would have been a bit weird for there to have been two novels featuring Vardens in the same year.
So at this point, the Doctor and Sarah and Torchwood Ross and a few of the sirs from the town, they're all being held at gunpoint, by Breckenridge and Percival and the two guards. And then Sarah kind of, I don't say she loses it, but she goes off on Breckenridge, letting him know that, one, that they're time travelers, and two, that history forgets about Breckenridge and he never becomes successful. And, oh, by the way, the kid on the table over there that you're planning on turning into a creature as well, he's going to be a famous author. Yeah. Fortunately, Kipling was unconscious while Sarah was saying all this. And then, so that just forces Breckenridge's hand and says, he says that, all right, well, if you think, I'm going to change history or change, he's like, that's your history, not mine. So he's going to, motioning to either try and kill or convert Kipling. Yeah. And then, while this is going on, the 20 or so mer children, I guess, out in the bay are watching this through the big, again, think James Bond-esque, underground or underwater large plate glass window that's looking out over the bay, and they're seeing all this, and they think, okay, now's our chance. The seals are a little distracted by what's going on, so the 20 or so children revolt and kill the seals, although I think one or two of the kids ends up dying in the revolt. And while this is happening, the Doctor notices, and he and Ross take advantage of the distraction to attack their captors, including, the Doctor cleverly using his scarf to get rid of one of the guns from the captors.
Yeah.
And while they're doing that, there's some stray bullets that crack the gallery window, so that starts to, you see like the spider hairline fractures. The Doctor and everyone start to flee. Breckenridge has like a backup plan. He has additional augmented like dogs/wolves that I should mention too that the seals and the dogs were always their original animals, but they were enhanced with human DNA from the corpses.
Yeah.
And that's why the corpses were being dug up, because they wanted, I don't know why they couldn't just like prick their finger and have a couple drops of blood or whatever to do that, why they had to dig up the bodies to do that. But so the dogs and the seals were never people, they were always animals. So Breckenridge frees these attacked dogs. There are 4 of them, so technically you do get the Hounds of the Baskervilles, because there's 5 dogs total in this and not 1.
Yeah.
3 of the dogs go after the Doctor and his friends, and one of the dogs stays and attacks and kills Breckenridge. And Percival, who was also wounded in the fighting, flees back to his laboratory and plunges his hands into the healing gel just as the window cracks open and the whole sub-basement structure is flooded. And the Doctor and the others are able to escape back up to the factory floor and seal off the basement, just as the water's rushing in. But the implication is that all the dogs are killed, that Breckenridge and Percival are killed, although we don't see their bodies.
Yeah.
And that the Rutan's salve doesn't react well with salt water, fortunately, so that's dissolved and is made inert, and it can't be used to mutate any other people.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, that we don't get like a final confirmation about kind of Percival. It almost kind of feels like it doesn't entirely feel like it's being set up for a sequel. But like, no, just kill him. We don't want to revisit this. So editorializing here a little bit. Sorry. So Billy, you remember, has been kind of running around. So this is the kind of like the local homeless kid, and he alerts Sir Edward and Cromwell, who arrive with reinforcements just in time to kind of to pull the Doctor and friends out. So whilst obviously Breckenridge and Percival have been stopped, there is a problem about what to do with all of the Mer children, because you've got 20 or so of them. And Ross, Torchwood Ross, wants to destroy them. And then the Doctor kind of thinks, well, okay, what I should do is take them away from any family that know about them, that care about them, that would be like, oh, I wonder what happened to Agatha, and take them to a water world where they can rest and live out the remainder of their lives. So, yeah, I'm not sure what I make of that as a resolution. It does seem a bit neat. I mean, what about sort of, poor Josh and his, because like surely, because his family were already looking for him, and it doesn't feel as happy an ending. But then again, if they were going to hang around in Victorian England, then they probably they would end up as some kind of like freak show thing.
Yeah, or experiments or a sideshow.
Yeah. So it might be best.
It's nice to think that there's some aquatic world out there in the Andromeda Galaxy that has like Aquaman people in it. Atlanteans.
But also, so he's injecting these things into a new ecosystem. And so he's like, no, there you go, just swim off, live your lives there. Hope you don't get eaten by anything here. Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, the book is ending now. Right, there you go. I can't kill them all. There you go. Bye.
The TARDIS swimming pool makes a nice little carrying case,
yeah.
I guess, for all these.
That's quite nice. That's quite nice. And I did wonder, are we just going to end up with them forever being in the TARDIS swimming pool? And it's one of these things that might just get referenced. That would have almost been better.
They were jettisoned in Castrovalva.
Oh, well. That's the end of the book, isn't it?
Yeah, that's evolution.
Right. So what do you reckon about this?
Oh, we should mention that. So there's an epilogue too that kind of explains like where people ended up, and it's like Arthur Conan Doyle went on to do this, and Kipling went on to do this. So apparently there was a third historical figure in this that, unless you matched up her last name with her her fiance's name, you wouldn't necessarily know. Alice Bridewell.
Oh yes.
Is the foundation of the women's suffragist movement. So that's really cool that, I didn't place her until the epilogue, and it's cool that she was inspired by Sarah Jane and her feminism. But again, when you have such a course of like sexism, I guess, going throughout this book, it's hard to tell whether that was deliberate by the author to say this was just a really sexist time, and this makes Alice Bridewell's her struggle and her journey all the more impressive against this backdrop, or was it, and probably more likely given this was 1994, just a lack of awareness of some of that. And I also think that it would have been better served had they followed the approach that was outlined in the recent Rosa Parks episode of Doctor Who, where it would have been better if Sarah had just encouraged a flame that was already there, inside of Sarah, inside of Alice, instead of being the one to kind of light the match and inspire her. It would have been nice if there was a kernel of that already within Alice, but it didn't. We never got that from, and it was she's such a minor character in this that, well, it's cool to have that revelation in the end. It's like they didn't really do anything with it.
Yeah.
And if anything, when you think about like the theme of this book, it really isn't like, hey, we're gonna highlight how awful sexism is. If anything, I think there was definitely a theme of like, child labor versus education present throughout the book, and also a little bit of an explanation about how inductive versus deductive reasoning works, and the methods of Sherlock Holmes / the Doctor, setting those up and giving us a little bit of background of Kipling and Doyle and Alice. But I feel like that it was almost like an over egging of the pudding, so to speak. Like this would have worked better, I think, had there just been one celebrity figure, but that you have three. And Kipling, you don't get a whole lot of focus on whatsoever. He's just like an annoying teenager. Doyle's really the highlight, but you could have easily just had one and not the other.
Yeah, I think you could easily have done without Kipling. I think the Doyle bit is kind of fun in a way, but it doesn't have to be Kipling. It could be anybody, that kid. So, yeah.
One other oversight that kind of bugged me was the Doctor didn't use his sonic screwdriver once during this entire adventure, and I thought that was especially important in the last chapter when Sarah was, tied up in chains and Percival's like slowly advancing on her with like a razor blade ready to cut her, and then the Doctor's waiting for Abercrombie to pick every lock on their way into this sub-basement structure, and it's like, Sonic, hello. So
here's the thing. By this stage in his career, had John Peel ever actually written a book that would have featured a sonic screwdriver? I don't think he would have, because the New Adventures didn't.
Right.
The Eighth Doctor books did, but that was because somehow or other the Seventh Doctor, just before the TV movie, acquires a Sonic.
The TARDIS makes him a new one.
Yes. The TARDIS sort of says, well, the visitation was a long time ago. Here you go. But anyway, maybe he'd just forgotten about it. But at least he doesn't seem to make any actually wrong continuity references in this book. Whereas I think in Time Worm Genesis, he has Ace remembering Paradise Towers.
Ooh.
Whilst in the TARDIS kind of like swimming room.
Maybe the Doctor showed it to her like he showed the Dalek Adventure to Zoe.
Yes.
On his time-space visualizer.
Yes. Yeah, or maybe Mel just had a conversation, sort of like on Iceworld. It's like, oh, by the way, there was that one time where it was a slightly disappointing adventure. We were all being menaced by Nazi cleaners or stuff. Anyway.
I totally agree with you that Kipling was underused in this too. And I mean, apart from being delirious at the end and remembering that wolves were howling all around me, which I think
Yeah.
serves as the inspiration for Mowgli in the Jungle Book being raised by wolves.
Yeah.
But apart
Yeah.
from that, there really isn't. I mean, he could have just been anyone.
Oh, is Billy supposed to be an inspiration for Mowgli as well? I'm just wondering. Because he's this wild kid living on the edges of the village.
Yeah, that could be too.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah.
One of the dropped threads that bugged me was the lost harpoon in the bay, because the captain was very adamant that Doyle not lose it, and then later on, Doyle goes back to the captain and totally doesn't. I was expecting that to come back at some point because the captain needs his harpoon. He's a whaler, but that was kind of dropped. And then, well, it's a shame they're separated quite a bit. The moments where Sarah Jane and the Doctor do interact, I feel are nice, and I think John Peel does capture their relationship quite nicely. Although, splitting them up does give each of them a sidekick for the story. So, Sarah's got Kipling and Doyle, or the Doctor's got Doyle. And I do like how they're kind of both investigating different parts of this larger mystery. And it does give Sarah a chance to shine with some of her investigative journalism skills that seem to have been set aside, after her first season with John Pertwee.
Yeah.
In terms of her character. So I do like that we go back to that a little bit. I found it really odd, though, that for a lot of the book, the Doctor calls Sarah Jane and not Sarah, but the narrative calls her Sarah and not Sarah Jane. If anything, I would think it'd be reversed, right?
Yeah.
That the Doctor would, because the Fourth Doctor especially, just, my dear Sarah,
Sarah.
It was more so the Third Doctor that was, it's kind of like Jenna Louise versus Jenna.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I think the characterization's good for the Doctor and Sarah when they're together. That works, and quite often you can just visualize the actors, and it really does sing. So yeah.
If the author had wanted to go like the child labor route a little bit more, like, this could have been really good in that, if they had more detail and explain, talked more about like the poor working conditions. And, I'm thinking of Upton Sinclair's The Jungle. That book comes to mind, where it's like, there's ways you could describe how horrific their living conditions were, where that in of itself could have been the quote unquote enemy in this book.
Yeah.
But he didn't, he didn't go that route.
No.
I did like all of the scenes set out in the bay, like the colors and stuff and the lights under the waters. I thought those were almost magical, like in a fairy tale sort of way. Like I did appreciate those scenes, but they were kind of few and
they were very effective. I thought those were very effective. I agree with you, the sea scenes. But and I like some of the scenes in the factory as well, despite the fact that Breckenridge from the get-go is quite clearly a bad un. It's just trades and cliches a bit too often. I think that's my problem.
So how would we rate this one or score it?
Oh, right.
Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
Well, I'm happy to go first. I think I'm going to give it a 5. And I think that's the reason it's so high is because there are some nice scenes. The Doctor and Sarah, when they interact, are written well. Sarah, I think, still is well written throughout. The Doctor pretends to be Sherlock Holmes, but it's all right. There are worse books out there. There are definitely far better books out there. There are far better Holmesian pastiches. There's better fiction featuring Arthur Conan Doyle. But at least there aren't any Professor Challenger references, which is because have you ever read any of the Professor Challenger stuff? Some of it
prior to this book, and I think there was like one reference to it, like in the end notes or whatever.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was even a series. Like I had thought Doyle had only done Holmes. I wasn't aware of that character at all.
Yeah, no, it goes into some interesting places because also Doyle is very interested in spiritualism, and Professor Challenger ends up investigating spiritualism. They also has the Earth falling. Well, the Earth moves through a bit of bad space that's been left behind by an asteroid, and everybody suddenly starts getting affected on the planet Earth. All manner of there's some really weird stuff in the Challenger things. It's not just a Lost World. Anyway, sorry. What score would you give to this?
I'm going to go with 6 out of 10. And
Okay.
I think it gets an extra star just for nostalgia reasons and it being the first Doctor Who
Yes.
book I've ever read. But I agree with you. It's kind of middling, middle of the road. I think it's competent, but it's very much kind of by the book. And there's you certainly aren't a whole lot of surprise. I mean, there's the surprise with who Alice turns out to be, but apart from that, it's not a whole lot of twists or turns.
The Ross brothers.
Yeah, and then the Rutan involvement maybe too.
Yeah, the Rutan clan. Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say 6 out of 10, and it's an okay pseudo-historical, almost a pure historical, but not quite.
So, seeing as this was the first Doctor Who book that you'd ever read, how much of it was it as how you'd remembered it, or?
Well, I remembered the plot vaguely. Like I remember there being a factory, and I knew that there were like kids being abducted and turned into like dolphin creatures, but I had forgotten like how the hounds tied in to it. And
Okay.
I think at the time I hadn't watched, or I'd maybe only had seen, because this was just, I had read this just as I was getting into Doctor Who after the TV movie had aired. So I think at this point the only Fourth Doctor anything I had seen was probably Genesis of the Daleks. So that was, I had nothing to compare it to in terms of like, how accurate are Sarah and the Doctor's relationships, when I had originally read it. But I was worried about, I was worried that it would turn out to be like a 1 or a 2, book. But I mean, it's kind of middle of the road, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's certainly better books we've read.
Yeah. Whereas also of the original novels that I've read of John Peel's, and I've not read Genesis, but this is my favourite, I would say. But make of that what you will. At least this isn't like full of shoehorned continuity references.
And I don't think there's a single Dalek mention in the entire book.
No. But I also wonder, because the Virgin just tried to avoid. Well, they couldn't use the Daleks for kind of copyright reasons, but so whilst the Daleks were a presence in the books, they were often a presence off screen. So but maybe he just felt it was just easier to not mention them because he didn't want to upset Terry Nation. So maybe, I don't know. Because it was round about this time, every now and again DWM would have listed in the upcoming new adventures War of the Daleks, and then it would suddenly drop out again, and then like in a year or so, we're going to do War of the Daleks now. So there was obviously lots of negotiations going on.
Yeah, and I wonder how much of that too was deadline related, because it sounds like in his author's note, John Peel apologizes profusely for this book being late. And I know there was a gap where I think Goth Opera, which was the first Missing Adventure, was published, and then there was like 2 to 3 months before, they were supposed to come out monthly, and then there was a couple months gap before Evolution finally was published. So I wonder if that was always planned, or if the manuscript perhaps was late too.
I want to say that, well, I don't remember there being a big gap. I don't remember there being a big hoo-ha about it. So maybe they started out being every 2 months, and then it became monthly. I don't, in my mind, have it as a late book.
Okay.
So, certainly not like Survivor Sin.
Sure.
So,
Well, shall we? That's Evolution in the
yes.
behind us.
Yeah. Devolution. Yes.
Shall we move on to listener feedback?
Yes. Let's.
Okay. We do not have any listener mail this month, but you can email us at andwbcpodcast@gmail.com with any questions or comments you may have on this novel or anything else you'd like to discuss Doctor Who related. You can send us a note there, and we'll be happy to read your response out on the podcast.
Yeah, it's always good to hear from people.
How about Facebook?
So Facebook, we've had a few likes, which is always good. So yeah, do please interact. And also, if you've not gone to the Facebook page, you can see a lovely picture of me at the 50th anniversary thing. So it's the picture that I sent you a little while ago, Matt, where I appear to be played by a 10-year-old. I was just like wow. wow, I looked young, and that was 5 years ago. I look like I'm wearing my big brother's hat and coat. It was a very cold day.
On the Twitter side, we do have a bunch of new followers, so thank you everyone for following us there. And if you get a chance, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast device of choice, and that helps other listeners find us.
Yes, and also if you're reviewing on something that isn't iTunes in the UK or iTunes in America, so if it's iTunes somewhere else or any other thing, do let us know, particularly if it's a nice witty review, because we are probably not going to see it. So we're both Apple people. But do please give us reviews, particularly if it's 5 stars.
Much appreciated.
Yeah. Yes.
So I think we're at the point now, Chris, where you let me know what we're going to be reading next month. And I have no idea what you're going to pick, so I'm excited.
Yeah, Eighth Doctor. I'm kind of very conscious of the fact that you've only sort of read Eighth Doctor books featuring Sam. So I'm going to expose you to a new TARDIS crew.
Oh.
And we're also going to have a new author to this version of the podcast, but one of the more prolific authors. And also, it's a book that apparently features quite a bit about the EU, which is going to be in the news, I think, in 2019.
Prescient.
Well, let's see how prescient it is, because it was set in the near future. We are going to read Trading Futures by Lance Parkin.
Oh, exciting. I think the only thing I've read of his, well, 2 things I've read, his, was it A History?
Yes.
It was a reference book, and then also, I think, Cold Fusion. I've read of his. And then, did he write Just War?
Yes, he did, and the Infinity Doctors.
I've listened to the Big Finish adaptation of Just War.
Okay.
So, but I've only ever read the one Lance Parkin book, so looking forward to it, and I've never read anything with Fitz in it, so...
should be interesting. And we also seem to have like an accidental tradition of doing the Eighth Doctor in January, so...
That's right, yeah, we did Seeing Eye last January. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, should be good.
Cool. Well, until next month, I've been Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. Happy reading, and have a Merry Christmas to all of you at home.
Thank you for listening to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. Special thanks to George C. Music for use of their song, Doctor Who Theme, Swing Jazz Version. You can follow us on Twitter at ANDWBC Podcast and like us on Facebook. You can support the show by leaving us a rating and review on iTunes. You can contact the show by emailing your thoughts to andwbcpodcast@gmail.com. And until next month, happy reading.
Where he and Susan encounter an enormous hound.
Or Sarah.
Which is the size of a horse. Oh, yes! I'll read that again. So... Right, okay. So, practice with the new equipment, both microphone and headphones. Hello?
Yes. Hello.
Okay, cool. Complete with blanket as well, just to help with sound.
You're sitting in the dark with a blanket over you.
Yes.
Playing with your equipment.
So to speak, yes.
Big hearty laugh. Big hearty laugh. Okay.
Chibnall's excellent.
Bring back Matt.
Bring back Matt. Bring back Matt. Bring back Moffat. Bring back JNT. No. Let's not go too crazy.
Bring back Ian Levine.
No. Let's keep Ian Levine where he is. Right. Okay.
Bring back Michael Grade.
I think this conversation needs to end.
Does it need to end now?
Yes, this conversation needs to end now, and it might well end up on our audio outtakes. All right. Ta-ra. Bye-bye.
Bye.